Click. Get a little light on the subject. So, one more time with something I ran across this week. Um, I know sometimes Facebook is inundated with garbage, just like TV, radio, and anything else. But um, since I have so many people who follow the faith that I follow, which is um, believing that the commandments haven't been done away with and seeking out which ones apply that we can actually do to be obedient to show that we love God. And I pray that some of my friends do come to realize that's what we do. We're not trying to work our way into salvation. And I know that kind of thought has been perpetrated over the centuries about people working for their salvation. It's kind of been confusing um, in a lot of ways and made a lot of people fearful, which I was when I first started studying the scriptures to see exactly how they apply. And that was the difference for me. So just to get that out of the way of why I follow and do what I do to the best of my ability. A couple of scriptures I ran across um, on Facebook, getting back to the point I was making, was Leviticus 19:14. Do not curse the deaf or put a stumbling block before the blind, but fear your Elohim. I am Yahweh. And then another one popped up that, of course, as I was meditating or looking at that one, um, I was trying to come up with a reason for these scriptures of what they meant, because all of a sudden it seemed to open up differently than just kind of the line that, you know, just laying there saying what it said without looking into it deeper. Proverbs 24:17 through 19. Do not exult when your enemy falls. Let not your heart rejoice when he stumbles. Lest Yahweh see it, be evil in his eyes, and turn away his wrath from him. Do not fret because of evildoers, and do not envy the wrong. Well, in putting all this together, it was incredible that I started looking at it, and to me, it started to come as we don't rejoice when people are failing, when people aren't doing what they should be doing, and we don't rejoice and be happy, and we don't become that stumbling block for them. We don't cause them to be adverse to what God's trying to show them. Because in everything that I come to understand, nothing happens to a person unless God allows it. Job is a perfect example of that. So when God talks about becoming a stumbling block to the deaf and the blind, those are people who don't hear and see. So when you mock them in their loss, it's not good. That's not how we're supposed to be. If you truly love God and want to follow, and this has been a dilemma for me for a long time, because I've always had this in the camp, out of the camp kind of mentality that, those in the camp you treat with love and respect and honor, and you help them more than you help anybody else around you. But that's for a different time. So, with that in mind, it's like, what do you do with those outside the camp? It's like, well, you don't mistreat them and you don't enjoy them being lost, because you remember when we were not understanding the truth, we were lost, you know, and we started coming this way, and sometimes in doing so, we have become haughty, and we're someplace that they're not, and that's not the point. We're always to kind of be humble around those. Speak the truth, but don't do it like, it's a slap in the face. Don't hold it against them that they can't see. God didn't hold it against us until we submitted, until we decided that we were going to follow his commandments because we love God, not because of anything else. And that seems to be the juxtaposition of things. It's amazing to me that I didn't know what to do with those outside the camp. I didn't know whether to be harsh to them or or not concern myself with their well-being and welfare. Because when I read the scriptures about neighbors, I don't give that carte blanche to where anybody and everybody is my neighbor. The Messiah, and this is where I get that from. When the Messiah was told his brothers and mother was outside, and he said, "Who are my mothers and brothers? Are those who do the will of my Father?" So there was a distinction by the Messiah himself, and I believe I understood the premise, which is that we put our heart, mind, and treasure into those who are following the Father. And even the woman who spoke to the Messiah when she said, "Help me with my daughter," and he said, "I can't give to dogs what was meant for the children." And she said, "Even the dogs get scraps." Well, there's time to help those when they need it. And the thing becomes to be able to discern when you're casting pearls before swine and when you're not. It's really that simple. Some people, they're going to ask for help time and time again, and they're never going to come away from where they are. I remember one time I was helping somebody, and they spoke badly to me when I couldn't help them on something. And the way I was spoken to, I got offended. And in my mind, I said, "After all I'd done for them." And I immediately got admonished because if all I'd done for them was to go ahead and be okay in their eyes and not just help them because they needed help, it really cut me to the quick. It really did. So in all this, I'm just letting you know, in my understanding, in my heart, that these things are not really hard to discern. I think it's because of the way that we want to perceive them, not the way they're really there. It's really being humble. It really is. It's really being a light. You can't be a light with a big stick and smack somebody alongside the head with it and say, "I love you." God causes us to have turmoil and puts us in situations not only to test us, but to put us through a trial to grow us so that we may listen, that we may that we may understand. I was saying something to Shabbat yesterday when it talks about that scripture that talks about how you stair step up or you stair step down. Either way, when the Messiah said that, you sin when it first enters your mind, you don't sin when you sin. You don't do something wrong when you do something wrong. You do something wrong when you think about doing something wrong and you make a way to go do something wrong. You justify it or whatever you do, whatever it is we do. And then you turn around and the opposite is the same, going up. Righteousness builds upon faith, faith builds upon, you know, understanding. And the final one, I believe, is that we become uh, able to understand brotherly love. It's the last one. It's after you grow and grow and grow, we understand the finality of it all by understanding brotherly love. We seem to have a hard time loving God, and then we have a real hard time loving our brothers and sisters because we justify how we feel about it. And with those two scriptures that I ran across this week, it helped me out a lot to really see what it is that we need to do and how we need to be. Because that's the whole thing about renewing our minds. Renewing our minds is just a matter of taking what the scriptures are instructing us in. And a lot of the scriptures, when you really take them apart, are not just about doing and not doing certain things. And that's what a lot of people get hung up on. They keep the Sabbath, they don't eat certain foods, and they hold to the feast days, and you know. But the greater aspects of the law, like the Messiah said, is mercy, right ruling, and justice, and not our version of it. That's the hard part. We like to think we know what justice is, and justice is and mercy and right ruling is way different. Our understanding of that is so limited. We don't understand how much mercy we have received. It should cause us to go ahead and not want to be who we are. It has me. I even I don't do it very well at all. I am so sad by the way I am at times. I change. Don't get me wrong. I don't just sit there and lament over being not what I need to be. I just find it sad that we are in such a condition that we maneuver, manipulate, add to a sentence, add a couple of words to make something better in some way, or even saying something to somebody that we don't want to hurt their feelings. And that's the difficult part in all this. We want to give a palatable version of what the scripture says when all we can do is just say what it says. That's it. There's no making it more palatable. There's no more making it um, acceptable. We can't say or do anything that's going to make it okay. So I just wanted people to understand that there's more to this than what they realize. And I'm talking to people who are walking in the faith. If we're going to go ahead and say we love God and we're going to follow Him, the more important aspects to me are the ones that we give all our heart, mind, and strength to God, and then love our brother as we want ourselves loved, and finding out sincerely what that means, the depth of that, the height, the length, whatever it is. We have to. stop measuring things in our own minds. Uh, there was a brother who was at Shabbat, was really wanting to get together, um, basically contacting all these different groups around to be able to, um, for lack of a better term, network together. And this is something that when I heard him speak that, this is something that's been on my mind for a long time. That each group has its own little group of elders, and they take care of the people that the fathers put under them to 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 um, to help, to be responsible for. And when you put the word responsible instead of in charge, you're responsible. We're all responsible. Whatever Yah puts in front of us and whatever He gives us, whoever He puts with us, we're not there to boss them around or tell them how to live. We're there to help them to go ahead and respond to the Father, help them to see what the words mean, and be what we need to be in all this. Now it's going to be different. I know it's going to be different. Each group has its own little caveats of what they hold to. It's no different than the denominations and the churches. The only difference for me is that we believe that the commandments are still viable for us to show that we love him. This is the difference between how people see things. For me, it is absolutely the truth that if we really believe what was done and how it was done, that the Father made a way for us to be okay with him, to restore us back, to to restore the children back unto the Father. And then anybody else who hears these words and responds to them to now follow commandments or instructions or the law, whatever you want to call it, has not been done away with. But just like the Pharisees had it backwards, had the cart before the horse, as it were, where if you didn't follow commandments, you weren't saved or you weren't okay with God. And it's never been that way. It's always been when he saved the children, took them out of slavery. It was always I set you free, and people believe that setting us free means we get to do and think and speak like we want to. It's not the way it is. If we really believe God is our Father, as the Messiah said, we get to call him Abba, then we need to respect him and honor him. Respect him as our Father and honor him as our God. He even told that to I believe it was to the priest, when he said, if if I am your Father, where's my respect? If I am your God, where is my honor? I, I'm probably paraphrasing, but those who know that scripture know what I mean. If we're going to say, yes, he's our God and he's our Father, then we need to act accordingly. It's never a matter of I'm more saved than I was before because I did this or I did that. So, for all my friends who believe that commandments have been done away with, I would just really look into that. And the biggest one has always been the Sabbath. That, to me, is the hinge pin when you come to understanding. A lot of people have come into this faith because they couldn't find, of course, there is no scripture that says that um, the Sabbath was changed. It's just not there. I don't care what doctrines you believe and what famous preacher or whoever said this or how you look at the scriptures. When they said, when it says they met on the first day of the week, as was their practice, they weren't meeting on the first day of the week to go ahead and say it was the Sabbath. They met on the first day of the week because they couldn't exchange money on the Sabbath. They were organizing. Monday, a Sunday, first day of the week was organizing their little community. That's what that was about. But over the centuries, it's gotten twisted up, and that makes me sad that a lot of my friends are very adamant about that part. But I pray that they see, and I pray that I don't become the stumbling block for those who are blind and deaf. And that's my whole point of this. It's not a long dissertation about anything else except I've seen something. Just a thought. Just a thought. It's amazing how we go along and we never get the fullness of it. But I know to strive for it is important because it says that when he returns, we will know him because we will be like him. So if anything else, if you want to understand anything, you got to look at how the Messiah was. Because for me, that opened up a whole new thing here. Because when the Messiah was admonishing the Pharisees and the scribes, it wasn't out of a bitterness of his heart. It wasn't out of anger. It was he was trying to get them to see where they were and how they were. And instead of seeing what the Messiah was saying, they just got angry and wanted to make him stop saying, like they had with every prophet that came before him. It says it over and over again. You killed every prophet you killed, or beat up anybody I sent to tell you were doing wrong. And you got to remember that the Father sent them just to tell them, don't be this way. I'm warning you, don't be. I mean, how many people have ever had their father or their mother or somebody of responsibility or authority tell them you need to stop doing this? My mother, I remember many times she told me, if you don't find a different way to be, you're going to wind up dead or in prison. And that's all the Father's trying to tell us. So take a moment. Please heed what the scriptures say. Please don't think that you know what it says. I mean, that's all of us. That's those outside the camp and inside the camp. Don't think you know what you're reading. Don't think it's defined and you got it. There's always a new layer of this. So I pray that the Father opens your eyes and that you humble your hearts so that you would hear what the Spirit of Yah says. May the truth be revealed to you. Because it's not me. I just do this because it's hopeful that somebody will hear and realize. I mean, I'm really trying to be humble here. I'm not trying to be kind of falsely humble. I'm trying to really be humble after understanding, I don't want to be that stumbling block. But I want you to know that for those of you who don't see and hear, all it takes, and I believe this, is to ask. Seek and you shall find, knock and shall be opened unto you. So his word is true. If you sincerely ask, and I got some stories on that, but not right now. Anyway, I pray I pray you hear. It's more important that people hear and see what the Father and the Spirit says than what I say. I just pray that I would say something that would get you to at least look and pray about it. Anyway, I love you all, and this was a live thing. I'm not sure exactly how this works, but I think next time what I'm going to do is just invite a bunch of people because I know a lot of people are going to be mad that I did this and didn't tell them. I was just trying to record this. Shalom, everybody.